Wait, what just happened? Americans, yes, US citizens, are now being deported from Europe in record numbers. You heard that right. The very countries that once rolled out the red carpet for American tourists, students, and digital nomads are now slamming the door shut. So what changed? Stick around, because we're breaking down the shocking truth about the 8 European Union countries that have started mass deportations of US citizens. And trust me, what we found will absolutely blow your mind. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from. This is Voyage Pulse, where the truth about travel hits harder than your jet lag. For decades, the American passport was considered a golden ticket, a symbol of freedom, access, and privilege. But something has shifted. And it's not just bureaucracy, it's politics, economics, cultural backlash, and yes, the changing global view of the United States itself. The world is watching America differently now, and that scrutiny extends to every American citizen who steps foot on foreign soil. From overstaying visas, violating local laws, working illegally, to simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time, more and more Americans are finding themselves detained, fined, and deported from European Union countries. But let's be clear, these aren't isolated cases. In 2024 alone, the European Council reported a surge of over 60% in the number of US nationals ordered to leave. This has never happened before. So, why now? And why these 8 countries in particular? The answers will shock you, anger you, and maybe even scare you. Because what's happening in Europe isn't just about immigration policy. It's about a fundamental shift in how the world sees America and Americans. Let's break it down, country by country. Prepare yourself for what you're about to hear. Once considered one of the most liberal havens in Europe, the Netherlands has recently taken a hard turn. US citizens, especially digital nomads, were flocking to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and Utrecht, often without proper work permits or overstaying tourist limits. The Dutch, famous for their tolerance, have apparently reached their breaking point with American behavior. In 2025, Dutch immigration police began cracking down. Over 1,100 Americans were deported in just the first quarter of the year. Reasons? Unauthorized remote work, renting illegal short-term apartments, failing to register with municipalities. But here's the most disturbing part. Locals have even begun reporting Americans anonymously. The very people who once welcomed us are now turning us in. Alright, let's talk about something big happening over in the Netherlands. They're calling it the Dutch reality check. So, there's this super popular Dutch YouTuber, right? And they laid it out plain. People come here thinking it's just anything goes. But hey, this isn't some giant playground like Disneyland. We actually have rules. So, what's the deal here? Is it just that folks from different places aren't quite getting each other? Or is this a much bigger wake-up call? Because get this, the Netherlands, a country that for ages was seen as this really open, really free place in Europe, well, now they're the ones really pushing back. Pushing back against this idea some Americans might have that, the rules don't always apply to them or that they deserve something extra. It's a bit of a twist, isn't it? You can really feel how strange that is. And the message they're sending out, it's super, super clear. That whole idea that America is just different or better and doesn't need to follow the same rules as other countries, well, that idea just isn't cutting it anymore when they go abroad. Germany has long been the heart of structured, efficient European society, but American tourists and temporary residents are increasingly seen as disrespectful, particularly in Berlin and Munich. The German approach to this problem is characteristically systematic and unforgiving. When Germans decide you're a problem, you become a statistic very quickly. German officials report a 72% increase in deportation orders for US citizens since 2023. Common offenses: overstaying 90-day Schengen rules, participating in unauthorized protests, employment without visa sponsorship. Interior Minister Lars Holten issued a sharp warning earlier this year: visa rules are not suggestions, they are laws. The German message couldn't be clearer or more ominous. Ironically, Germany remains one of the most visited countries by Americans, but also now one of the strictest. The country that once begged for American protection during the Cold War is now systematically removing American citizens from its territory. The historical reversal is stunning, and it should concern every American who values our international standing. Spain has become a digital nomad hotspot, but now, it's a hotspot for deportations. In 2025, the Spanish Ministry of Interior released a report stating that over 800 Americans were deported in just 6 months. Why? Because Americans are flocking to beach towns like Valencia and Malaga, living for months on tourist visas while earning money remotely. This not only breaks visa laws, but it's also sparked a housing crisis in Spanish cities, with locals priced out by U.S. remote workers. One Spanish senator even said, "They exploit our system, inflate our rent, and don't pay taxes. Enough is enough." The response? New biometric checks and random home inspections targeting foreign nationals. Spain is treating Americans like unwanted invaders. France has always been tricky for American travelers, but in 2025, things got worse. After a series of arrests linked to illegal Airbnb operations, France deported more Americans in Q1 of 2025 than in all of 2022. What triggered the backlash? Americans operating short-term rentals without permits, failure to report income to French tax authorities, loud behavior in culturally sensitive areas. One Parisian lawyer told Le Monde, "Some Americans treat France like a movie set, but we are not extras in their fantasy." Even the French Tourism Board has quietly updated its website, discouraging long stays by non-EU nationals unless properly registered. France, our oldest ally, is now actively discouraging American presence. Let that sink in. Portugal was once the darling of American expats. Low cost of living, sunny coasts, and relaxed visa policies made Lisbon the #1 hotspot for U.S. remote workers. But now, in 2025, Portugal's government suspended hundreds of residency applications and began deporting dozens of Americans weekly. The Portuguese dream is dying, and Americans are being blamed for killing it. Alright, so, on page 17 here, we're talking about the backlash in Portugal, and folks, it is really heating up. So what's the reason for all this? Why are people so upset? Well, the local people there are getting seriously angry. They're watching their own neighborhoods change right in front of them. You know how it is. New people move in, and suddenly the rent and prices for everything just skyrocket. And that means the folks who've lived there their whole lives are being forced out because they just can't afford it anymore. There are also a lot of complaints that Americans are buying up so much property, and on top of that, it looks like some people aren't playing by the rules for the D7 visa. And listen to this, it's gotten so intense that they're actually going back and rechecking visas they've already approved. And yep, some of those visas are being taken away. The mayor of Lisbon even hit the headlines with a really strong statement. He said, and I'm quoting him here, "Portugal welcomes guests, not colonizers." So, the things people are saying now, it's getting a lot more hostile, and it feels like it's becoming really personal. Italy has charm, but bureaucracy rules everything, and Americans aren't keeping up. In 2025, Italian border officials flagged a 110% increase in U.S. overstays, unregistered residents, and even marriage fraud cases. Yes, fake marriages between Americans and EU citizens are on the rise, so the government struck back with unprecedented force. What's happening now? Surprise residency checks, police raids on illegal rentals, retroactive fines, up to 10,000 euros, for visa violations. Even small towns that once welcomed American retirees are now pushing back. One local mayor said bluntly, "Respect the law or leave." Italy, the cradle of Western civilization, is now treating Americans like common criminals. Greece's economy relies heavily on tourism, but even here, American visitors are getting the boot. Island towns like Santorini and Mykonos have become overrun with unregulated U.S. influencers, short-term landlords, and permanent tourists. The Greeks, who invented democracy, are now using it to vote Americans out. In 2025, Greece deported nearly 700 Americans, a record-breaking number for a country with less than 11 million people. The Ministry of Civil Protection blames freelancers ignoring tax obligations, tourists living illegally on short-term visas, fake student visa entries. Greek TV aired an exposé titled, "The American Invasion, When Tourists Become Squatters." Talk about bad PR. Austria doesn't usually make waves until now. In a shocking report from early 2025, it was revealed that Americans are now among the top 3 nationalities being deported from Austria. Most of the cases involve U.S. citizens pretending to study, illegal Airbnb operations, remote work without work visas, and the punishment, swift and merciless. Austrian law now mandates immediate deportation for any non-EU national caught violating visa terms, with a 5-year EU entry ban. Yikes. Austria, the country that gave us Mozart and The Sound of Music, is now composing a symphony of American deportations. The cultural irony would be amusing if it weren't so alarming. So what's going on here? Is this a coordinated EU crackdown, a cultural backlash, a political message? The truth is, it's all of the above. And with Europe rolling out ETIAS in 2025, a digital visa waiver system with pre-screening, the golden days of visa-free American travel may be coming to a painful end. American privilege is no longer a passport, it's a liability in countries now demanding structure, respect, and legality. The world that once envied American freedom now sees it as American chaos. The shift is profound, systematic, and accelerating. Every American traveler needs to understand this new reality before it's too late. We've received dozens of messages from viewers, just like you, who were detained, fined, or even kicked out of Europe. Jessica from Florida wrote, "I was freelancing while living in Portugal. I thought I was safe. One day, immigration officers showed up at my Airbnb. I was out within 48 hours. These aren't isolated incidents anymore." Michael from California said, "I overstayed my visa in Berlin by 15 days. They detained me at the airport, banned me from the Schengen area for 3 years." These stories aren't rare anymore. They're the new normal. American citizens are being treated like unwanted refugees in countries that once begged for our protection and investment. The pattern is clear and disturbing. Across 8 different EU nations with different languages, cultures, and political systems, the same thing is happening to Americans. This isn't coincidence, this is coordination. This is a message being sent to America and Americans: your time of special treatment is over. So what can you do? Follow local laws, know your visa rights and limits. Don't assume your US passport is a free pass anymore. Europe is changing, and if Americans don't adapt, more doors will close. The writing is on the wall, and it's written in multiple European languages. Drop a comment below. Have you experienced immigration issues in Europe? Have you been deported? Or nearly deported? We want to hear your story. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new. Subscribe for more jaw-dropping travel updates, and hit that notification bell because the world is changing, and you need to stay ahead of it. This is Voyage Pulse, signing off. Until your next destination, stay sharp, stay informed, stay pulsing. The America that once commanded respect around the world is being systematically rejected by our former allies. The question isn't whether this trend will continue, it's whether Americans will wake up before it's too late.